Welcome to Plain Talk here from Trillium Wealth. I'm here as usual with my partner Matt Gamal, and with many things going on in the world today. Matt, I think you wanted to talk about something very specific. So what's on your mind today?
Yes, so it's not every day that we have a government shutdown, but that day is today. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and it's really happening, right? I mean, for a lot of times over the last few years, it has been kind of a negotiating point. It gets right there to the end, and somehow it gets handled. And it's not that we haven't had them before. We just, the last 4 or 5 years, everybody's kind of moved out of it. And as a matter of fact, I was watching today, and John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, that's what he was actually trying to point out. He was trying to point out, hey, we've had continuing resolutions, and the number of senators that voted for it was, every line he had was like somewhere between 75 and 87. So it wasn't really close. And I think that was his pitch to Dems today was, why is this different? So why is it different, Matt? Why are we shutting down?
Yeah. So first of all, big point of confusion was just, hey, didn't they just pass a big spending bill? One big beautiful bill act passed months ago. Why is that not, why are we still shutting down? I thought we just approved a bunch of government spending. Yes and no, right? That was a different bill, but every single fiscal year, which starts October 1st for the government, they need a new appropriations bill. They need a new budget. And so, yes, we have a big overarching taxes and other things that were related to that bill, but they still have to do their work of, it's up to Congress to control the purse. And by not doing it and not passing a budget that's going to get approved by the president, the government has no money to actually spend. So that's where we're at. And that's why, there've been negotiations, there've been conversations from both sides, and we're getting to tonight. And if tonight at midnight, there is no agreement, even a continuing resolution, which just is like, yeah, we're going to keep doing exactly what we were doing for a while. But without a continuing resolution or a new budget, it is just stuck. And that's where we're at.
Matt, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm not sure my answer on this, and I'm not sure what your answer will be, but I thought I've heard over the last many years, we've actually pretty much run the government on continuing resolutions. I thought we haven't really passed the budget in a long time. Am I off base on that, or am I somewhere on base on that?
No, I mean, just if we think of how divided things are, it's just super hard to get any movement, right? So any bill is hard to get through the government when the government's divided. And so they do a lot of things where it's like, oh, we can pass that bill with 51 votes, but we don't need 60 in the Senate to pass it. So a lot of stuff can get done that way if one party controls the House and the Senate, but other bills need 60 to pass. And, so we're in this position where just things are not, real budgets are hard to come by if one party doesn't control everything. And so we get these continuing resolutions, which are really just hey, whatever we did last year, whatever the status quo is, we agree it's fine to keep doing that, maybe a couple extra line items, and then just like keep going forward so we don't shut down. And so that's a problem. We're not making a lot of good progress and decisions. We're just using every time there's a sticking point, and approving a budget and having appropriations for a coming year is a sticking point. One side or the other is trying to gain concessions in the process, and that's where we're at.
So here's the important thing for our clients, though. What does it mean to them? And I want to ask that in the context of, today the market was up again, and we've known the government shutdown was coming. This is not something that's surprising anybody. In fact, it would surprise them almost at this point if it actually got concluded, because it seems like a political fight. So market's up. In fact, the market has almost said, yeah, we knew this was coming. We're not real concerned. But I am, Matt. I have a little bit of concern over this. And it's like, it's not what's going to happen today, because I think, and I think you even have some thoughts on this, that, government shutdowns don't really have huge effects on the economy long term. This one might, if it's not solved. So what are your thoughts on that? What does it mean to our clients today?
Yeah. So, I mean, there have been several other government shutdowns in the last 10 years. And when you pull back far enough, it's a blip on the radar, right? It really is. Like, yes, there was problems. I think I'm trying to remember when we had one. It was maybe 2019. It was several weeks.
Hmm.
And then they get to, all right, well, we'll fund it for these crucial operations of the government to keep being funded, but a bunch of other stuff isn't. People are furloughed. Um, and then you fast forward 5 years, that's a blip in the radar, right? So big picture for the economy, it's fine near term, creates uncertainty, creates volatility, absolutely creates hardship for, you know, families, like government workers and their families, but also if you would just imagine all the people who depend on a government service, right, from the federal government, that it's creating a lot of disruption in our daily lives, which isn't great, right? And having been in the military, we saw the end of it where it's like, okay, I guess we're not going to be paid for 3 weeks, and there are banks making loans to service members to get them through this period of time. It's weird. um it's just not a serious way to run the country for either side, frankly.
I think it's important that people realize that, even back in my day, which is a long time ago now, I was concerned about my soldiers when these things happen because
Yeah.
those guys live paycheck to paycheck. Um, we, contrary to what people think, lower enlisted people are often underpaid and getting some type of government assistance. So it's a double whammy. This time, though, I guess my concern is, for better or for worse, the current administration has proven to operate differently and more aggressively. And they test the limits where in the past, like administrations don't literally, like on both sides, they don't test it. So that's why they always come to a conclusion. I've seen some noise out there where the current administration's saying, yeah, there won't be furloughs. And that's the big threat because of furloughs, sometimes people even get back pay on that. Like it all
Yep.
works out in the wash. And that happens a lot. Like they literally get furloughed and get back pay. In this case, he's saying there will be no furloughs. Like if the government shuts down, we will take that as our opportunity to fire. And I've seen a number as high as 850,000 people. The government, I believe, is the largest employer in this country. So that would start to have some real effect on the economy if that many people lost jobs at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So it is meaningful. um Furlough, the idea of you're not getting paid right now, but you'll get back pay for work you didn't necessarily do. That's not great for productivity in the government. The other side of, hey, those 3 works, unpaid vacation, you're getting nothing for it. That is actually, I mean, that is actually money coming out of the economy because those people are all going to go spend it, right? They're going to spend it, they're going to invest it, they're going to do something with it. And now they're just missing, 1, 2, 3 weeks of pay out of a year. That's a big, it's a hit to their families, but also a hit to, yeah, that's less, right? Part of GDP is government spending. And so like if we just hold on to a couple weeks or a month of pay, that's a lot of money that didn't get spent and injected into the economy that then circulates. And yeah, you're right. The previous government shutdown in 2019, under Trump 1, um, you can tell that the administration is different today than it was. It's a different administration. There are different tactics. They are more organized around achieving their goals. So yeah, it's not going to be the same necessarily. That said, I don't know that the Democrats definitely want to see their people fight. They want their politicians fighting for them and doing something. And so I think they're definitely going to fight for something. They're going to try to get some concessions. It's mostly around, it seems like, healthcare spending, right? The bill cut some healthcare provisions, Medicare, Medicaid spending, and they want to try to increase that, right? So whether we find a compromise, I don't know, and how long we take to do it, I don't know. Um, but yeah, it's going to get messy a little bit, I think.
So I think something that does happen is I do think when it comes to the markets and even the economy, because they're so tied together, I'm optimistic because Wall Street does seem to get that right. And they lean red. There's no doubt about it. So they're looking at the current administration and going, "Hey, we support this guy. He's one of us, and we don't think this is going to be a long term, certainly not a market, but an economic issue." So what does it mean again to our clients? Because we have clients that are drawing Social Security right now. We have clients that are on Medicare. We don't have a lot in Medicaid, but we have some that are doing that. What are your thoughts on what does it mean to them, not just to their pocket or their wallet, but what does it mean to their life right now? Because we talk about being wealth managers, not financial advisors, and people's wealth has to do with, everything they're doing out there.
Right. Yeah. And so even looking at previous shutdowns, right? So I think I looked it up earlier today. The total number of federal employees, including the post office, was, gosh, it was like 2.53 million or 2.9 million. It was a lot, right? And
Hmm.
that excludes uniformed military, right? So that number's not in there. Then it's even higher. I mean, then we're at, including the reserves, 4 million or so. Um, so yeah, if we're in the high 2 million range, at previous shutdowns, yeah, there were people furloughed, but it was a couple 100,000, which means that the bulk of the government is still at work in some capacity. And so, yeah, like, our social security check's not going to go out next month. No, I think they will, right? They'll, whatever the skeleton crew is needed to get social security checks out, to make sure Medicare reimbursements happen or whatever that is, that'll still be happening. Now, if you need some customer service from social security or the IRS or Medicare, like, good luck with that, because they'll probably trim down those customer service positions, but they will still like disperse benefits that are, entitlements.
Well, that's scary for people then, because I got to tell you, like, people right now, like, I've watched it, try to call the IRS right now, you don't get an answer, right? When you're trying to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not even that big of a change. It's like, okay, I didn't get an answer for 8 hours and I hung up anyways. So, it doesn't really matter that much. Um, all right. So any other thoughts in general on what you see here? What do you see coming down the pike for this? Like, what do you think the solution may be?
Yeah. So if we think in the big picture, part of the markets, right? And the markets are not one thing. There's equity market, bond market, different animals care about different things. Um, the bond market kind of is responding to government spending, taxation, all those things. I think they will look at this event, maybe be like, the risk of the government, making good on its bonds is a little higher than it was the other day, but not really. In the end, something will get worked out. And the solution to this whole thing is probably a little bit more government spending, but not enough that the bond market says, oh gosh, like, you're putting, trillions of extra debt to pay for whatever program. I think it'll be, some kind of Medicare, Medicaid that goes to certain states or whatever. And honestly, it's more like they want to go back to what it was pre the the big bill. So it's like, we were already paying for it a year ago. We're stopped paying for it, but you want us to pay for it again? So not a huge difference that the bond market necessarily is going to react to. On the equity market, I think they're looking right past it. They don't see enough impact to say, oh wow, this is really going to take us off the path we were on. And so they'll just, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, equity investors are saying, yeah, this is a blip on the radar for them.
Yeah, I think, so I talked about how this administration does things um, differently than past ones. I do believe there's some predictability in it. And I do believe that when I said how Wall Street, you know, probably views the current president is, and again, I always say these things for better or for worse. And, different people have their ways of doing things, but the current president does like to be the white knight. He does like to come in and save the day. And he does have a tremendous amount. Like, I don't think I've seen in a long time, probably since Reagan, that a guy just had such power over his party. And so I am optimistic that it wouldn't last that long because he is a deal maker, no matter what people say. Like, that is what he does. He likes to get his way, but historically, he understands making a deal is giving a little bit back. And I don't know what the Democrats will get, but I do at least have a level of confidence, again, because of the guy's personality, that he'll make everybody feel a little bit of pain, but he will. I think he'll come in and go like, "Hey," because he'll lean on the soldier thing. Today he was talking about how the military's hit all of its recruiting goals ahead of time, and that hasn't happened in a long time. That's a point of pride for him, right? The reservists, like those guys, as you know, you and I were up recently with special forces reserve guys. Those guys get deployed a lot, and they already don't get paid for all the hours they put in. And so them missing checks is a morale thing. And he's a guy that does tend to listen to things like morale. So I think that I I am optimistic, right? I said my concerns, but my concerns I think are short term, like you said.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is not like the fiscal hawks who are forcing a government shutdown, saying we're spending too much and we're not going to approve anything unless we slash government spending. This is, well, I mean, it's a government shutdown because Democrats are not getting on board, and they'll get something, right? And that's fine. It's how politics is supposed to be. Each side gives a little bit, gets a little bit. And so, yeah, I do agree that he'll come in and do something that's not wildly different than some status quo we've already had as far as spending or healthcare. And he'll, you know, it'll be a win for him. It'll be a win for the Democrats for having fought a little bit. Now, when you drag it out and you're at a 3-week shutdown, it gets harder, right? So I don't think it's going to go that far, and I don't think people are going to dig in that hard. I do think they'll dig in to a certain point, whether that's 2, 3, 5 days, and then say, yeah, we don't want to suffer the pain of long-term government shutdown, so we're going to compromise.
Yeah, and I will tell you this: I think that you know, the one place, and we'll see if I'm right. Like the one place where I think it's easy to win, even by giving in, is on Medicaid. Like that's
Oh
where
yeah.
both people get to win. Like the Dems get to say, "See, we fought for Medicaid," and the Republicans, and particularly the president, get to say, "See, I told you I wouldn't let people suffer, that need the help. But we're going to clean up all the malfeasance in it, and that's how we're gonna get to our number." So, um, any other thoughts, Matt?
No, I think we'll see what's going on. I'm sure we'll put out some content over the next week as this thing progresses. Just there's gonna be missing government data. The government puts out a lot of data. The market looks at it, but isn't doing something based on only one data point. It's all painting the picture of the health of the economy and jobs, spending, consumers, all those things. We're going to miss a little bit of that. There's going to be a few data points that are missing this week or next week, and they'll get put out when they're put out. So it's, yeah, we're missing a little data, but we have enough from the previous months, and we'll get caught up whenever the shutdown's over. So you'll hear about that on the news. It'll be fine.
So, Matt, for once, I'm actually going to do a precursor for what I think we're going to talk about next time, unless something like just pops up. And the reason I'm doing that is because we always say to people, hey, at the end of this, there's an email at the bottom, and email us any thoughts, feedback, something you want to hear about, call your advisor. Well, we actually got some feedback. And it was on somebody asking if we could talk about like real GDP, what it means. And what I'd like to do is to talk about that along with a topic that you and I potentially we're going to talk about this week is like, is the market overvalued? Because I think those things really tie together. Like there's a lot
Right.
of things out there now where the index that Buffett always used, suggested everything's going to blow up. But I haven't heard him say it's going to blow up, right? Because they always say things are the same, history repeats itself, but no, things have changed. The speed, the velocity of the way money moves, the way market moves. There's people looking further out and saying the GDP's here today, and we're pricing this in the market because those things are moving faster. So, unless something big comes up, Matt, what I'd love for you to be prepared for next week is real GDP and the real value of the market. Are we truly super overvalued a little, or are we pretty much on track?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, great. So again, you guys will see the email at the bottom, and we are taking your feedback, and we do want to talk about your topics, and I know we'll get to that one. And again, the only thing that would throw us off is we want to be very topical. So if the government shutdown's still going on 2 weeks from now, we think that's going to be a real salient point, we may change. But look forward to seeing everybody again. We appreciate the support. We're here to help you with all your wealth needs, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks.